Hey, welcome back to Dogtography. If you are a dog Instagrammer, a groomer, a dog walker, anybody that takes photos of dogs for social media, you are going to love my brand new 3-part series. Today, I'm coming at you with episode number 1 to learn all about how to take your images from snapshots to pictures that tell a story that people want to look at and like and share and spend time on. It is going to help you up-level your social media game, and you are going to love learning some of my insider tips and tricks from my professional career as a dog photographer to help you get more engagement on social media. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Andrea Fleury, and welcome to Dogtography. My channel is all about how to take better images of your dog and how to create some really super fun memories. I walk you through different tips and tutorials and techniques. I sometimes show you behind the scenes of my professional career as a dog photographer, all while just trying to have some fun and enjoy time with our dogs. Okay, so the first tip I have for you is to really help master your composition in your images. We're going to talk about the rule of thirds. Now, there's lots of different principles in composition that just make it way more complicated. We're just going to talk about one today, and it's really basic and it's really easy to understand. We're going to draw it out for you here. So we have this awesome picture of Jazz. Now, the rule of thirds uses a series of vertical and horizontal lines, which look something like this. You have a top horizontal and a bottom horizontal and a left and right vertical. So Jazz here is aligned with an intersecting point. Now this is what the principle of the rule of thirds is all about, is putting your subject in one of the areas where the lines intersect. So for me, for dog photography, what I enjoy doing is putting the dog's eyes or the dog's face up on one of the top intersecting points, either the left one or the right one. Now you can see here that her head is aligned with the one on the left, her eyes are kind of right smack dab there, and then the rest of her body is also in alignment with that left vertical line. It's got just enough of the dog in the frame that I am able to enjoy her as like a chest and head type of shot, and I really love it. And it's got lots of nice visual interest over here on the side, but it's not distracting. And I think that is the thing that is key about images like this, is that you have to really watch the distracting elements that you have in your background and around your subject. If they are sharp and in focus and there's lots of detail to those things, then people's eyes are going to be drawn to that as well. So you have to be really careful and declutter your backgrounds, or take things out of the frame that you don't want people to focus on and see, and then use this compositional rule of the rule of thirds. Let's look at another image. Okay, so in this image we have Ebony. Now again, I'm going to draw on here the rule of thirds line so you can see where intentionally I've placed her. So she is on the top right intersection, and it's not her eyes or just her head this time. I wanted to have like her whole body kind of up there in that area because I wanted to leave lots of this amazing foreground down here in the bottom for the viewers to kind of see, and have them lead their eyes up to where she is on top of this mound of ice. And I also wanted to have lots of sky and environment in this shot, which is why I didn't zoom right into her. So that's another tip that I have. The storytelling components behind these images of our dogs is so important, to leave some environment around them, depending of course on your situation and your location. But for this, it was nice and plain. I love the sky in the background, the icy mounds that kind of lead up to her in the image. I wanted to leave those. I didn't want to like zoom in on her. So this works perfectly, again, for the rule of thirds. Let's look at another picture. So here we have Dash on the log, and this one is different than the one that we just looked at. So he is much more front and center in this photo. It is not cropped in, but I took it so that there wasn't as much environment around him in the image. I didn't need that to tell the story. The story was him looking so stoic and
just incredible up on this log. I didn't need any extra trees or environment around him. I wanted the focus to be more on his face and this like breath in the air. So to show you again where the rule of thirds comes into play with this image is that his head here is on the intersecting point up at the top, and I've got his back hind leg in the lower intersection. So this just really helps again lend to the image and its presentation so that people can enjoy it. They're going to go straight to his face and look at his face, and then their eyes are going to kind of travel around and appreciate the environment around him. And that is exactly what I wanted for this image. Let's try another one. So here's another image of Dash from the same shoot, actually the same beach, but this is an action shot and there is movement and motion going on in this picture. So I wanted to show you again how I use the rule of thirds with this image of Dash. So we've got our intersecting points. As you can see, Dash is positioned on the left vertical line. His head again is up at the top intersecting point, and this leg is going right straight down that vertical line. The ball that is coming at him is up near the top intersection, and you can see the line of action is going through this top horizontal line. So this is giving the image a great flow. The viewer's eyes are coming in and they're kind of circling around like that. They're appreciating the action and the curve of his body, and they know that this ball is coming right for him and he's about to catch it. So it just lends really well to the rule of thirds, using this and allowing enough space kind of on either side of the image so that you have lots within the composition to capture people's interest. So my best advice for using the rule of thirds is to get it right, or as close to right as you can in camera. If you're using an iPhone or other digital cameras that have a grid that you can put on your screen, you will be able to see those lines on your screen so that you can get the best composition in camera, which is my best advice. Now, we're all taking pictures of living, breathing, moving, unpredictable animals. So sometimes it's hard to achieve. So just make sure that before you go to post your image online, that you are at least going into the crop setting on your phone or your software, whatever you're using, and make sure that the grid lines come up and that you can crop your image accordingly to make sure that what you're wanting people's eyes to look at are touching one of those intersecting points within that rule of thirds. Tip number 2 is an absolute game changer. So this tip is all about negative space. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So in this image here of Asher, he has his head turned to the side, right? So oftentimes when we're taking pictures of dogs, they're looking off in all kinds of different directions. So to me, I really enjoy this. I like the fact that he's looking, his body's facing one way, yet his head is facing the other way. It's giving his body this really awesome kind of position, and it's showing that he's interested and looking off and doing his own thing. I remember when I was taking this image, he was just kind of looking around at the environment and just really doing his own thing. I'm pretty sure he was actually looking at some geese like flying around at this point. And I was totally down for that. But what I made sure to do was allow room within the frame here for his eyes, for his gaze to look into. So he is looking off to this side. You want to have space for the dog's gaze to look into. It is vitally important for the storytelling component of your image and for your image to just compositionally make sense. If alternatively this image were to be cropped like here and here, and he had like no space to look into, this image would not be as strong. So let's go and look at a different example. All right, we have another example here. Now, this dog, same thing. When I was taking her picture, she was really interested and curious in her environment. So I wanted to make sure that I left room for her gaze to go into. As soon as you see your dog shift their head, now I know it's hard because sometimes they're like moving around really fast, try to adjust your camera so you're allowing space for that dog to look into. It really, really does make a difference with the composition of the image. And again, I'm using rule of thirds here as well. As you can see, her head is up on this top point with room to look into. And as well, my other key point to this is the background is clear, that there's not a lot of distracting details. Let's look at another image. So this next image here, we have Ollie sitting in kind of this like awesome foliage on the beach in the winter time. And he was gazing off to the side. Now I had his mom standing off to my left, holding his ball, which he is absolutely obsessed with and loves beyond words. And it caused him to gaze over to look at her. So I wanted to make sure, again, I had this space that allowed him to look into it, and it just gives it that extra pop, that extra thing, instead of like cutting the image off here and making this like a vertical shot, or making it so tight horizontally that he didn't have any room to look into. So again, that's that. Let's look at an action shot, which is another time when you're going to want to use this same rule. So in this action shot here of Dash, where he's running and chasing his ball, and his body is actually going across where I'm shooting, so you're getting like the side profile of his body, and he's headed essentially from left to right. You're going to want to leave negative space here for the dog to run into. They need to have that space in front of them to essentially give the viewer's eye, the understanding that he's in motion, that he's moving, and it makes sense to have some space in front of him, again, as opposed to cutting the image off, you know, right here where his head is essentially right against the side of the frame. That doesn't make as much sense to the eye. This really allows for the motion and the movement to continue forward, which is exactly what you want. So when you're lining up your shots and your dog is running around, make sure you have pulled back enough in the frame so that you can allow in your editing process, and again, even if you're just using crop, to go in and crop it and frame it. And again, use the rule of thirds so you can combine all of these tips together. Using these two compositional rules in conjunction with each other is going to really skyrocket the quality level of your images, using the rule of thirds and using that negative space. But that brings me to tip number 3. Watch your backgrounds. So really paying attention to what is going on behind your dog and avoiding these very two common mistakes that I see over and over again. The first one is trees growing out of the back of your dog's head. You're out in the forest, you're wanting to take images of your dog playing, walking, you pose them somewhere, and just inevitably there's always that tree that is or a branch or something growing out of the back of their head. It's not a good look. It is a very amateur looking mistake, and you want to make sure that you avoid it. All you have to do, if you have your dog in a pose, you just need to move yourself. Just move around, be fluid, and position your body and not have to reposition your dog. Alternatively, fences or any other lines that kind of intersect through your dog's head, you want to try and avoid these. This is a camera angle issue. So it's really simple to change up your position so that you're avoiding these lines or the things that are kind of stabbing your dog in the side of the head. It's just, again, another really simple, easy mistake to make that, again, gives your images this more kind of amateur, snapshotty kind of feel. So just by adjusting my camera angle, so I'm positioning myself up above him just a slight bit more, I'm still on eye level, but I've altered the position of my camera lens. I now no longer have this fence line going through his head, which I think just kind of makes the image much more pleasing to the eye, and that is exactly what we're going for with all of these different tips and techniques. I really think if you can combine these tips and techniques together, that you're really gonna up-level your images. It just takes practice. Go out, be mindful. Just try the rule of thirds thing at first, see how that goes. And then, start implementing some negative space in your images if your dog's moving or looking around. And then lastly, again, just being mindful of what's going on in the background. Decluttering things if there's distracting stuff, but watching lines like trees, branches, fences, street light posts, like anything like that. Make sure they're not like growing out of your dog's head, and your images are going to look that much better. It's what's going to separate you from everyone else that's going out and taking mindless snapshots. Please go out and try it. Tag me on social media at dogtography.ca so that I can see it, share it, like it. And until next time, go make some memories with your dog. I'll see you next week.